Hello, everybody, and welcome to our self-care focus session today. I'm Cheryll Alomai of the PBC Foundation. I'm Patient Services Manager, and I'm delighted to be joined today by Ange, a friend of the Foundation and somebody who we love to work with and bring to the PBC community. So many strings to your bow, not least that you're a mindfulness compassion coach, a psychotherapist, trainer, a mum, a friend, and we look forward today, Ange, to you sharing with us more of what you know and more that can help us in our day-to-day, and thinking about stress and how we deal with stress in our day-to-day, telling us a wee bit more about how our body responds to it, just so we can learn that bit more so that we can be at our best. So I'm really looking forward to this session today. And without further ado, over to you, Ange.
Thanks so much, Cheryll. And it's lovely to be called a friend of the PBC Foundation yourself, because that's how I see myself. And it's interesting that when we hear that word friend, and Cheryll and I hadn't rehearsed this, but my heart actually actively warms. And one of the terms, I wonder if we can talk about you being a friend to yourself and maybe even friendly to yourself. Some people find the idea of compassion, sometimes even bringing themselves kindness, pretty difficult. You know, it's not the way we're being brought up. It can be quite difficult. I was running on Saturday a one-day retreat here in Edinburgh, and there was a couple of the people that actually really couldn't relate to that idea of thinking about nurturing themselves, being compassionate to themselves, or even being kind. And often what it is, you know, it's not quite embedded in society yet, and certainly within the culture that we live in, that actually we automatically go to something to soothe or nurture or be kind to ourselves. We're not there with that yet. And so we are all got to be quite radical in this and trying to do this and share it with other people. In fact, I put a post on my Instagram page today, and it was like, even when somebody else is unkind to you, because I know how tempting it is to be unkind back, stay with your values and be your compassionate self, because I believe innately we are. So this session is called Stress, the Body and Compassionate Management. And it's by no coincidence that when Cheryll and I were discussing it, that actually this is April, which is Stress Awareness Month. And it's really interesting because we all experience stress to some level or not, and we all have our different definitions of stress. Yeah, you could look up the Cambridge or the Oxford Dictionary about what stress means. You could look up Wikipedia, it'll give you plenty of definitions. But like a lot of things, including the word trauma, but like a lot of things, the word stress means something to us, and what we get stressed about, what our triggers are quite different. A lot of people, you know, they kind of laugh when I say, and they say to me, well, what do you get stressed about when I don't get stressed at work? I went, well, maybe if somebody's not apologised, or I find changing a plug really stressful because of my dyslexic brain, and that's sometimes, not often, what other people get stressed about. So it's really important to value our own definition and our own experience with that there. So welcome to this stress, the body and compassionate management. And Cheryll touched on also, you know, about me working with the PBC Foundation. I'd really encourage you, because this one that I'm delivering, it can be used as a standalone session, but I really dug deep, knowing that if you've turned up before, it's a complement, it's a growing development of depth to each of the sessions. So it can be used as a standalone, But I would really encourage you to go back to the previous sessions that we've done before, and it'll be like a wee jigsaw. So the one that I just did a couple of months ago in January there, that's one of the corners of the jigsaw, and this is the other top corner. Okay, we'll obviously need to talk about the bottom two corners, but this is what it is, and it's really important. And I know that Cheryll herself does a lot of self-care sessions within the foundation, and all of this is about complementary. They're all pieces of the jigsaw too, okay? And Stephen Hopkins himself, very early on in his life, and whilst it wasn't PBC, had that debilitating illness that kind of went through his life, says, however difficult life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. Have a look at any of his work. You could watch some of him. I think there's a Stephen Hopkins, I can't remember, it's on Netflix. It's beautifully portrayed by Eddie Redmayne, the award-winning BAFTA and Oscar-winning actor. Fantastic story, so you don't have to take much time out. But it's really about understanding in our session. So what's the purpose of today is really looking through a compassionate lens, or if that word doesn't feel okay for you, that's okay. You don't have to take my word for it. You can just use the word friendly. Yeah, especially in the context of having a rare disease, because it's so uncommon. It's so common that we have our own perspective of things. So one of the things that we do at Direction, one of the first questions, and you could put it in comments here, or just think about it yourself. If you're watching on YouTube, you can pop it in the comments, or just keep it, yourself, whatever feels right. But in Direction every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, where I'm working with my colleagues Tammy and Claire, on Teams message we go, hello, how are you out of a 5? 5 being the best. Now we don't say, oh, what did you do at the weekend, or blah blah, and we do all that, but we say, how are you out of a 5, without having to explain, so that we have that deeper connection and understanding with each other. But it's also building up our self-awareness, and our self-awareness really is our emotional intelligence. If it's very common when we're struggling, we have pain in our body, when we're experiencing fatigue, stress, demands from other people, it's very common for us to wake up in the morning, get back on the hamster wheel, and just go into our doing. And that's okay. But when the survival mode and instinct comes up, what happens is we tend to lose awareness, because we're so busy trying to firefight or cope with that pain in our body, or the demands from somebody else, or whatever that might be. But just checking in with yourself, even taking a few breaths in the morning, not rushing to go and get your phone, and but actually just taking a few breaths, checking in with yourself. And it might not be, oh, well, I feel this or I feel that. It's much more, what am I out of 5? So I would suggest that maybe that you actually check in with yourself. And if you work with people, or you've got a pal, just check in with them. How are you out of 5? Yeah. So that's also a connectiveness for you, building your emotional intelligence, your awareness, but also connecting to other people. Because generally when we go into a stressful place, we tend to isolate, withdraw, and pull ourselves away. So welcome everybody. If you've just joined us, you can always watch on replay. And thank you very much for joining us. Please go back to my other sessions and watch them. The reassurance, I want to give you some reassurance about stress management, because it's not about eliminating stress. We can't, I'd love to give you a magic wand and go, da, but it's not, it doesn't happen like that, okay? And sometimes I think when I'm stressed, I have to have a kind of light attitude around it. So it's almost like holding a feather in my hand. When we hold it too heavy, it feels too heavy. We think too heavy about it. We can catastrophize, negative thinking, irrational thinking. And what happens by that is we go spiraling down. Before you know it, you're in some hole down there. okay? Because we can easily feed the mind and the feelings. So it's about, how do I have that friendly approach, that attitude with stress? It's about, how do I work with it? How do I befriend it? How do I be its friend? Yeah. And in culture, the way we're brought up, it's about eliminating, it's about squashing it. Oh, I've got that tool, I've got that tool. The bottom line is, you know enough tools. What I'm doing here in this session is complementing all the other sessions, going quite a few layers down, and hoping that, you know, that you start trusting yourself with this, to start listening to yourself a wee bit more about what is it I need, and not just trying to find something that'll de-stress you when you're only stressed. Because if we wait that, you know, it's like sitting at the traffic lights, green, amber, red. If we're waiting until we go red, that alarm bell's going to go. It's like going to be like a fire engine going off in us. And that is not a good for our adrenal system or any other system within ourselves. I went to see Dr. Rangan Chatterjee on Saturday, and I want to weave this in here because it's really important. Although I was gutted that Cheryll couldn't come along with us that night, we've got lots of learning to share with you.
I just want to say there that I ended up getting tickets for the night before in Glasgow.
Oh my
Last
goodness.
minute. So yes, I look forward to you weaving this into the session.
So I'm curious. So I'm going to read something that he believes, Cheryl. And if nobody knows, or if you do know Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's work, I would encourage you to go and listen to the podcast. He was talking specifically about two people, and one of them was Gabor Mate, who is a trauma counsellor and psychotherapist. He's known in my field as a psychotherapist and mindful compassion coach. Because I was saying to Cheryll says, "Where are you?" When we first started, just before, and you're actually in my consulting room, where I see my coaching and psychotherapy clients. So welcome. And Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, yeah, it's what's his podcast again, Cheryl? Live Well. Cheryl is now going to Google it, and she'll put it in.
I'll have to remind myself, bear with me.
One of his perspectives, so I'd encourage you to go to the podcast, but one of his perspectives is the way we perceive stress determines the impact. By shifting our stress to, maybe you'll say, stress is harming me, rather to say stress is a signal I can work with and we can change the body's response. Now that is really, really powerful. So powerful. What he's inviting us to think about, and this is my belief as I've been a psychotherapist, mindful compassion coach for over 30 years, that actually, how do we work with this mind that perceive things, that not only we perceive things so individually, but actually we perceive things to our unique way of doing it. So how I perceive stress, or how Cheryl perceives stress, or how you perceive stress, and probably another 2,000 people perceive stress, will easily be very different. Did you find out his podcast, Cheryl?
Yes, it is Feel Better, Live More.
So he interviewed Gabor Mate, so have a look at that. And he interviewed Gabor Mate, and one of the things that Gabor Mate talks about is perspective, especially even the definition of trauma. But what he also talks about is that we don't have enough fun in life. We don't have enough enjoyment in life. And I have always advocated fun, laughter, comedy, anything like that. It's really big. I'm a single parent with 2 kids, teenagers especially. So you can imagine what's going on, some of that. And then having a wee fur baby, a wee Jack Russell. And both my children have attended regular hospital appointments since they were born. So it's about weaving into your lifestyle and who's in your life. And it's about how do I change my perspective on stress, and using it more as a signal rather than suddenly you go into threat. So my experience as a psychotherapist is really how we look at things in the mind, because I'm really, really fascinated that when we have a thought, we think it's the absolute truth. And I find that really fascinating when I started questioning my thoughts. So if I say to you right now, when you're watching this, I don't want you to imagine a black cat with pink spots. Please don't imagine that. Don't. In fact, what to do is please don't imagine it eating an Hawaiian pizza. Now, what are you going to do? Of course, the mind is so fickle. It's so like an untrained puppy dog. And it's so amazing in that way that we cannot control what goes in our mind. We have over 60,000 thoughts a day. 90% of them are repetitive from yesterday. Probably, how many times have I done my shopping list? Yeah. How many times have you thought about this? 90% of them are from the day before. They're repetitive. And bearing in mind that the mind itself has a natural tendency, has a natural negativity bias. Yeah. So I'll come to that in a wee minute. So my invitation to you is, can we use, when we experience stress, can we use it as a moment to come back to ourselves, to grow, to practice our breathing? The minute you feel stressed, or there's an external trigger, or even internal, suddenly you notice your breath going short, or something that you see's happened, or something that you've heard or read on the email or something, can we use it as a trigger for being present? So the minute that presents itself externally or internally, or that pain in the body, that's a moment for me to take time for myself, to slow down, to go down a gear from maybe 6, 7 gear, because that's how many gears a car has now, believe it or not, right down to gear 3. Okay, rather than stay in automatic pilot, because you're gonna be in trouble. Don't think for 1 minute that I think that's easy. It's a constant. The mind is like an untrained puppy dog. It will see anything. It will do anything for a treat. And our treat for our own mind is usually something negative. Like I said, it's got a negative bias to it anyway. Now, Paul Gilbert, who has been one of my mentors that I've seen often, and he is a neuroscientist and mindful compassion coach as well. And he talks a lot about, so he says to us, and I do a lot of more of this conversation, training lives on my Facebook, so please follow me. And Paul Gilbert, I remember seeing him for the first time, and before I started doing his training on compassion focused therapy, was, imagine you're going shopping and you've had great 9 experiences. It's fantastic. But then you go into a shop and the shop assistant's a bit off for you. They're not very kind to you. They're trying to rush out the door. And you go home. What one are you going to remember out of those whole experiences of your whole day? It's been pretty good. And then you have maybe a run-in with your neighbour, or there's a pain in your body. But yet maybe most of the day you've done well, you've emptied the dishwasher, you've replied to an email, you've maybe done your shopping list, you've maybe got through a couple of things at work, or you've managed to just feel softer in your body, less pain, less fatigue. And then suddenly, you hit 4 o'clock, then you see this big shooting pain in your leg or somewhere else in your body. Then we often look back in our day and it's not been very good. Okay. I wonder, Cheryl, do you have any questions for me just now before I go into a wee bit more there?
No, I think you're just, it's the weaving bit of it just now, just the weaving it in, and yeah, I would just say keep going with that at the minute, and I think there'll be questions will come in, and just encourage people as well that's here with us, just if they've anything to mention. This is great.
So I want to enhance Cheryl's word there of weaving, and Rangan Chatterjee talked about this on Saturday or Friday in Cheryl's case. And what he was talking about is that weaving in. So even when I'm inviting you to do something, for instance, I mean, you don't have to take up the invitation. It's like having an invitation to the party. You can just pop it in the bin if you want. But that weaving in of what I say is little and often. And it's like new habits. It's really important to make it part of your life rather than just going, you know, suddenly there's a fire and you try to put it out with a fire extinguisher. That is not a good approach to stress, because goodness knows, and of course, when we have a rare disease, when we get the headaches, the migraines, the fatigue, the struggle just to even have the energy to get through the day, never mind the emotional and cognitive energy, it's a lot. So Nick, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Vujici, and that'll be my dyslexia. But he says, we are stronger than we think, but sometimes we need a reminder. And it's really important, I think, what he's saying there, what Nick's saying there, is that we need a reminder in ourselves, because we tend to focus on the not so good things in ourselves, or the things we're struggling with, or the fatigue, or the lack of energy, or whatever that might be, or the lack of focus or motivation. Now, he's a motivational speaker, he's an author, but he was the founder of Life Without Limbs, and that's an organization dedicated to inspiring people throughout the world. And he was born with tetra amelia syndrome, which is a rare disorder that caused him to be born without arms and legs. And he's become a global representation of resilience, hope, and overcoming adversity. But he really focused on perseverance and faith and the powerful mindset that you can. So check his stuff out as well. Have a look at it. So what happens in the body generally when we experience stress? Well, you already know it's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Now, fawn I'd like to come to, because I've often spoke about fight, flight, and freeze in the other sessions. And fawn is a survival defense mechanism, unconscious to us. You know, defense mechanisms serve a purpose. It's really important that we have them in order to survive as a species, and first and foremost as animals. But really, in simple terms, fawn is when we go into that kind of imposter syndrome, or we go into the people pleasing, or trying to say that we're okay when we're not okay. And that can easily happen with people with rare disease. I'm actually, one of my clients passed, had severe ME, and I would say to him in the sessions, we'd do it on the screen, and I'd say to him, and it was ended up being couple therapy as well, and so the couple could be with and learn to accept and figure out how to live with something that was life-changing, which most of you will relate to. And I asked, so how are you today? Yeah, fine. And what we realized, it was a coping mechanism, or what I learned to do is sometimes go straight to the negative. Actually, I'm just exhausted, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's really important to say that when we're exhausted, or when we're struggling, or got pain in the body, or digestive problems, or whatever that might be, or had the most awful restless night's sleep, but the brain will automatically go to that because of the negativity bias. And what we have to do is weigh out. So when somebody says to you, how are you? Okay, this might be hurting. This is how you're struggling with your energy. But also, is there any goodness there? Now, it's not tricking the mind. It's not false positive psychology here. It's about training the mind, because the mind is like that puppy dog. It will go to the bad treats. The organic, nice, fresh treats could be over here, but the puppy dog won't care which ones it eats. Okay? And it's more, if that's a bigger pile over on this side, I can tell you, the puppy dog will go over to this side, and as the mind will, and especially the ego, it sits and has this, rubs its hands together. Ooh, I've got something meaty to get into. So what you're thinking there, it's not about criticising yourself, blaming yourself, but it is about that friendly observation. So using a part of your mind that we often don't use, remember I've went a few layers down here, and that is the observer within the mind, but making it friendly. Because if you're looking at the way you're thinking or the way you're feeling, we tend to criticise, judge ourselves, put ourselves down. I'm not good enough. She seems to be coping better than me. Look, he doesn't suffer from fatigue as much as I do, and so on. And so the stories go. Yeah. You know better than anybody how chronic stress will make an impact on the immune function, the digestion, the fatigue, and even pain. And when we bring our mind only to the pain, it simply enhances it. Now, we're not looking to push it away. We're not striving to kind of, put it underneath the carpet or anything like that. What it is about how can I be a bit more friendly to it? So how can an overactive nervous system, how does it impact with stress, and especially in the body? Well, it doesn't matter whether it's itchiness, fatigue, it will simply increase everything. Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's perspective is, remember, stress isn't just about what's happening to you. It's also how you respond. The good news, we can train our response to be much healthier. Now, I know how difficult it is not to react to something that's very stressful, especially if it's a pain in the body, especially if we feel like our bodies let us down or the demands externally are just pulling us and we're just not meeting them. And it's really important to start looking at that with a bit more a balanced approach, like, the old-fashioned set of skills, because I actually remember them being 55. But maybe people younger might not have seen these skills, that you have one scale here and one scale here with the bit in the middle. Let me know if you've seen these scales before. But if they're weighing like that for at least 2 or 3 weeks in your life, you want to stop that. Really do something different, something radical after stress continues on for 2 or 3 weeks. Okay. I want to go on to practical tools for daily stress, but I think it would be good just to have a little slow down, move the gear. Okay. When you notice stress externally or internally, it's really important that, just like a dry throat, I've got a dry throat just now. What will I do? I'll take a drink of water, thanks. That's the antidote. I don't allow myself to continue to have a dry throat. Yeah. The antidote is the water. And what I'm encouraging you to have, and I mean, I've often talk about it even at my desk, but even in every room in your house, including your kitchen, to ensure there's something there, at least one thing that is going to help your well-being. Now, let me give you an example. I wasn't going to speak about this, but it's come up naturally in it. So in my kitchen, I have 3 logs on the window, okay? They're about this size. Now, there's 2 logs that weigh together 7 pounds. That's the amount of weight that I've wanted to build into my health and well-being that I've lost in the last 5 weeks. There's another log on this side, okay? So what happens, now they're all together, they're a bit weighty, but actually split up, they're not. So when I'm like making my kids tea, I will do, and Rangan Chatterjee spoke about this as well. He's got 2 weights in his house that when he pours his coffee in the morning, knowing it because it's one of those in the cafetiere, it takes 5 minutes for the right, you don't talk at the right stew, something like that. Do you remember this bit, Cheryl?
Yes, indeed. Yes, I do.
So yes, and he percolates as his coffee's percolating. for 5 minutes, because that's the exact time it takes, he lifts his weights. He does his weightlifting. And that's not very much. And he talks about this weaving differences in, weaving small habits in. And I do use the words often, little and often. So I've got these logs, they're already on my windowsill before Rangan said this. And what I do is, if I'm cooking something that takes a few, like if I'm a big fan of soup, if I'm like cooking the onion, it takes 2 or 3 minutes to, you know, cook slowly. And I'll just take, and I did it this morning, and I'll just take, I was just making myself some beans and poached eggs, and I'll take a wee log in each hand, and I'll just do just this. And this morning I managed 20, that's fine. Put them down. Oh yeah, I better stir my beans. Picked up the logs again and then started doing this. That's all I did. There's no weights, there's no bell weights or anything fancy. Just something, even if you're in a chair, even if you're in your bed, it might be a couple of books, it might be a couple of tins of beans, whatever. You don't have to go and get logs. I just got logs because I've got an allotment. That's all it is. So think about that idea is, when can you weave these in that's already there in your life, okay? And also that little and often. Can I put times in my diary where I could actually just do 3 minutes? So let's sit for 2 or 3 minutes just for a little meditation to help with stress. So just check in right now, and you can close your eyes if you want to. It'll just last a few minutes. Just notice where you're breathing, because often when we breathe right up into the chest, into the throat, it usually means we're in automatic pilot, or the adrenal system is just maybe a gear or 2 up. So let's bring it down. Popping your hand, even on your belly, one on your chest. And the minute you place a hand on your body, that accesses the soothing system. So I've spoke about this in other sessions in a bit more in detail. So immediately when your physical body feels even your own touch, because it doesn't know the difference between you bringing some warmth and friendliness to yourself to someone else. So you bring the hand, feel the warmth, that intention of just being kind, just friendliness. And what's happening, even unknown to you, is that we're accessing the soothing system. So it sends a wee message, a wee text message up the spinal cord to the brain. The brain says, oh, you're being soothed. This is really nice, and sends a wee text message from the brain through the spinal cord to the body. And actually, the body softens, it just relaxes. And if you're doing this just now, you might even notice a little bit of saliva in your mouth, a bit more than it was a minute or 2 ago when we started. Feeling even the belly breathing. It's just taking that breath. You know, no matter what our struggles or our stresses are in life, the breath is here, is accessible at all times, even when we're in a car or sitting, lying in our beds, even when we're doing our shopping. So just even accessing this, as many moments in the day as you possibly can. And that will make an impact on our parasympathetic system and also our stress hormones, cortisol. It will all be bringing that down, leveling it off, giving us some comfort. So even viewing the breath as friendly. Not just when we're stressed, not just when we're anxious, but every moment in the day, even when we're sending emails. And see what it's like. Just check in with yourself. What's this like for me? For some people, they can feel restless or really distracted in the mind. That's okay. We don't have to be a specific way. For other people, it might be a relief. And I would encourage you to see if you can just do a 3-minute mindful meditation just every day. Just to regulate the breath. I would encourage you to pop it in your diary. So just ask yourself now, what if I just took those 3 minutes out of 1,440 minutes in every day? What if I just took 3 minutes? And then just suddenly, just slowly, just gently opening your eyes, and you can keep your hand on your body. You don't have to move it just because we're online or whatever that is. And maybe you can put in comments. You don't have to put in the comments, but you can maybe put in comments if you want. Please let me know how you got on with that. Somebody has mentioned that they want to follow me on Facebook, so just put it under Ange Cameron, A-N-G-E, and then it's Cameron. On Instagram, I think it's Direction Scotland, all small case, Direction Scotland. And if any problems, Cheryll will point you in that right direction too. I'm not going to say any names because of the privacy.
I've put a little thing in there as well. Put a little link. There's a link in there and reply to that person.
Thank you. Yeah. So what I really like as well, you know, as somebody who likes a little bit of tools, because I always have this term and I call it coach in your pocket. And Rangan Chatterjee was talking about this in his tour. And what I'm really fascinated about is that, you know, it's all very well like you can, you know, listen to this podcast and read this book and so on. But for me, because my whole training is a psychotherapist and because my approach as a coach is a mindful compassion coach, it's not just about telling you what to do. It's about what about this and what about this, but what I'm encouraging you to do. And he spoke about us trusting ourselves a bit more. And I term this as coach in your pocket. So getting these tools that even when, you know, you're getting your shopping at Aldi or picking up kids at school or even talking to somebody on the phone, is that we're able to access these easy tools to make them feel right for you. So for you to decide, for you to trust yourself in a way that feels right for you. So something in, let's say, a stressful situation, it might work for me, but it might not work for Cheryll. It might not work for Robert at PBC. So think about what's right for you. Now, there's lots of things. People know that I'm a bit nerdy often with neuroscience, and I am. But it's really important. So I have a lot of studying with the neuroscience part as well. It's not just about, oh, this feels nice and that feels good. It's, I like evidence. What is this going to do to my nervous system? What is it going to do to my parasympathetic system? What is it doing to the body and that compassion that we bring in the body? And also physically, and right down to the cells, to the building the immune system, to the thought patterns in my brain, is really important. Now, for me, the real simple science-backed strategies, I'm going to use the word strategies because I think they are, is really just slow breathing. Now, I don't know if you've noticed, But when I've been in my head a lot, I've gathered a lot of information there, I'm processing a lot, I've spoke a bit faster. Now, it's not because I'm stressed, it's because I'm delivering a message that I want to be really clear, concise, and I want to absolutely serve you to my utmost best. If you do that too often, so say for instance, when my kids come home from school, or I've got a team meeting at work, if I'm doing that too often, the adrenal system's going to kick in and it's going to go into overdrive. And that's like imagining when you're at the, it doesn't matter whether you're a driver or not, but when you're in the car and you're sitting at the traffic lights and you've got your handbrake on and you're revving the engine, that is exactly what's going in internally. So slow breathing all the time. So even if it's a trigger, every time you open a door, every time you send a text message, every time you put your handbrake on in the car at neutral at the traffic lights, check in with your breath and slow it down, okay? Humming is another one. Now, we did that. It's really funny because we did it on our retreat on Saturday. And the vibration that you get in your body is really... You can try it. I'm not going to do it here. Because we've not got enough time today. Maybe we could do it sometime. I wonder how a sound bath would be online. But that's another thing. If you ever listen, for me, it's interesting because I've got a clock in my room here, and it's really interesting. It goes tick, tick. And that's how it's like almost a gentle scream, and it really soothes me. And really interesting that when my mum comes to stay, because there's a similar clock in my kids' room, my mum doesn't like it. We have to move the clock out the room. So choose sounds that's really going to bring soothing to your system. And I would also encourage you to listen to music. My music that I choose to soothe, I mean, I usually go to Enigma. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but my kids both go, their responses, usually an eye roll, because it's not really what soothes them. And what's interesting is what soothes one of them, because I played it when I was pregnant, is opera. So, or it might be a bit of classical music. So choose something that's going to really go in there and cause that vibration within your body. The other thing is, for me, when we talk about science-based strategies, a lot of very, very gentle movement. Now, you can do this standing up or in a wheelchair, in a chair, wherever you are, but you can do very gentle movements to calm your body. If you look at YouTube and look at mindful movements, the 10 mindful movements by Thich Nhat Hanh, it's really lovely. It's really good, and really shifts that perspective and reduces stress. What's the other thing? Is I've already spoke about cognitive reframing. Okay, shifting from even a thought, I'm stuck, to I'm navigating this. This is tough and I know I'm going to get through it. And even if at that time, in that moment, you're questioning whether you're going to get through this, or you're questioning, are we actually going to get to be? Keep building on your thought patterns of resilience and empower yourself to say, look, this is difficult. It's crap. It's whatever else. I'm still navigating it. I'm still here. Yeah. And it's really important to do that. One of the other things that often people underestimate, I think, is one of the strategies is micro breaks. Now, even the science backed evidence around micro breaks of 2-minute pauses, just a 2-minute pause throughout your day, helps reset internal stress levels. I use the Pomodoro method. I honestly go on about this all the time, even to my staff. I work for 25 minutes. I have a 5-minute break. And when I mean a 5-minute break, it's not like I'm doing cartwheels in my hall when I'm working at home or anything. I literally go through. Sometimes I make myself a cup of tea. Sometimes I just open the door and I stand and get some fresh air. I'm not going to be on my phone. Sometimes I even spend that 5 minutes emptying the dishwasher because it is logging me out of something that I'm already doing. So 25 minutes, you're doing something, then a 5-minute break, 25 minutes, 5-minute break, 25 minutes, then about a 15, 20-minute break. My dog is so used to it, Luna Lovegood, when we're working together at home. After 25 minutes, when we get to about 23, 24 minutes, she lifts her body off the sofa, looks at me, knows that I'm going to move. So I would really encourage you to do that. Last, around daily stress reduction strategies, journaling and gratitude practices. I cannot, in fact, I don't know if I sent you once upon a time, Cheryl, my glimmers video. I'll maybe share that again so you can share it with people, because I don't know if you've ever shared it. So, but it's a great idea. It's not just a great idea, it's, you know, neuroscience backed. Do you remember that video at all, Cheryl?
Absolutely, yeah. I still use it, yeah. And that's something people can go back. I'm sure that'll be on our YouTube channel.
Yes. Well,
definitely,
if it's not there, let me know and I'll send you the video again.
Super, thank you.
Because, you know, journaling is so important, and Rangan Chatterjee spoke about this, you know, even just taking 5 minutes a day for ourselves, and he calls it solitude. It's an interesting word. I thought it was fascinating that he called it that, because I just kind of say, right, I'm just giving myself a bit of space. And I was sitting there, and I'm just sitting on the sofa, 10 minutes this morning. I'm just wondering about I'm looking forward. Oh, it's a 2 o'clock session with the PBC Foundation. I'm looking forward to that. So just bringing that lightly. Oh yeah, and my kids will be up just now, and better take the dog a walk. That's nice. And thinking about what else is happening that day, and just really allowing myself very relaxed, enjoying my coffee. And it's really important to do that, because often, and he said it himself, you know, often we're even sitting having a cup of tea or a coffee and we're on our phone. We're all getting so much external stimulation, so much. So take that time. And he also says, one of his quotes is, micro changes in our day create macro changes in our health. Micro changes in our day create macro changes in our health, which I absolutely agree with. Before I offer a couple of, I maybe go to questions and then just end with a wee guided kind practice or kind reflection. Is there anything that you want to share or ask just now, Cheryl?
I just think there's so many glimmers in this session. And I see that somebody's commented actually that it makes a lot of sense, but sometimes things that make sense it's the doing, isn't it? It's the actual doing of it. You know, even if you've heard and you've listened to Ange before, it's the actual doing, the reminder, isn't it, that these sessions encourage us to weave it in.
Yes.
And bring it to life, and just starting small steps of the doing of it. I think that's the key here. There was a couple of wee things that were people just about the day to day, which I think you've covered. It's just that when you've got a stressor, you've identified something as a stressor, how do you still go about your day? And I think you've more than answered how we can approach that, you know.
Well, let's bring that to life, because I think it's really important. I think, first of all, acknowledge, wow, what great self-awareness you have for being open-minded and open-hearted to even be aware of that. I mean, I love that. I love that you're even aware of it rather than just ignoring it and pushing it away or putting your head under the carpet like an ostrich. And so to bring awareness, self-awareness is so empowering, because we cannot change anything. We cannot change anything without self-awareness. If we don't have self-awareness, every single time that we don't have it, or we don't acknowledge something going on for us, what happens every single time, even on a micro level, we are disempowering ourselves. So first of all, you have the self-awareness. And the second thing is, and here's the bit where you can really own your life, to make the choice. Am I going to just ignore that and let that stress overwhelm me and let it drive my car? Or am I going to turn around and actually turn right and say, I've got my stress there, and I'm going to do what I can here to make a choice to not make it so hard on myself. I'm not going to rescue myself, but I'm also, maybe I need to notice a glimmer. Maybe I need to look at my mindset. Maybe I'm going to think about, how I actually approach this. If my attitude to stress is always to go into survival mode, is always to go into difficulties and firefight, then that's not really going to work. So what's my attitude? Am I bringing an attitude? First is friendliness, and second is curiosity. What have I ever actually got to know my stress? Like one of my neighbours. Do I know my neighbours better than my own stress? And when we can build up that self-awareness, when we can build it up to such a level to empower ourselves, you get no bigger level of power than that. It's absolutely phenomenal, and I cannot underestimate it. And I'm just going to, from Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's, you can tell I'm a bit of a fanny. And to be honest with you, I'm really fussy actually about I don't just go for any motivational speaker or anything like that, because I like evidence-based stuff. I like things that are real, that we can practice as a human being, and it's really important to take that on board. And he also says, true health isn't just about what we eat or how much we move. It's also about the way we think and feel. And that's really important when it comes to empowerment. He talks about this idea. I'd put it on my coaching community. Hold on. His definition of mindset is life is simply a set of experiences. It's the story we put onto those experiences that ultimately determines the quality of our life. And I know some of it's challenging. I know that. Anything else before I do a wee practice? I'm happy with anything.
I don't see any in the chat. No, I don't see any coming in. I think everything is just the whole strategies of how to live and be at your best when things are stressful. So I think that you've covered so much in this session of things you can do,
And I did mention the things in my kitchen, but there's other things, like even in my study, I've got a wee heartstone in my pocket. In fact, to be honest with you, I put my trousers on this one. You won't know that I've got blue trousers on, but in it was a wee heartstone. So I thought, oh, that's handy, that's there. I've got a hot water bottle on my feet. I've got water on my desk. I've got tissues on my desk. I'm looking out of the window. I'm making sure I get my 4 hours natural daylight every single day. In my sitting room, I've got comfy cushions. I've got tissues. I've got a window that I look out often, even if it's just a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there. I've got a fluffy pillow that I can stroke. All of these things. And sometimes I buy just nice flowers, put them in a vase. I've got nice wee house plants, and all of these things are nurturing us all the time. I mean, it's pretty amazing that even the plants in my sitting room, we breathe in the same oxygen. That in itself nurtures us. So if you're up for just doing a couple minutes guided, kind practice reflection, so just closing our eyes. And, Audre Lorde said, self-care is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation. It is self-preservation. So just come down to your breath, allowing it go into the belly. Remember, it's passing that big, beautiful heart that actually innately is already loving and kind. is already friendly, the heart. Our own being is innately kind. So can we bring a bit more kindness, a bit more gentleness to ourselves? And when we come down to the heart, just choose one small takeaway that you will apply that feels right and good for you. What's the one small takeaway that you'll apply? How can you see it in your life? Is it in your bedroom, your sitting room? Is it your everyday, you're working or playing? Is it more fun, comedy? And what might happen if you were just to do this one act of kindness every day? What might happen even after 2 or 3 weeks? What might happen after 2 or 3 months? One act of self-kindness today can easily change how you feel tomorrow, said by Dr. Rangan Chatterjee. And just open your eyes whenever you're ready. I hope it was today at a different depth. I did touch on 2 or 3 things that I've touched on before. I hope you take away some nuggets, and what I would encourage you more than anything to do, more than anything, is keep coming back to this. Because even when, when I've been training time and time again, I keep coming back and I'll listen to the same thing time and time again. And a bit more about mindset. If you ever listen to Dr. Rangan Chatterjee's podcast, I want to say it's 111, but it was certainly in I think it was January 2021 with Edith, I cannot remember her surname, who was an Auschwitz survivor.
Edgar,
thank you. Was an Auschwitz survivor, and she talks about mindset. I'm not going to tell you because we've run out of time, but go and check it out.
Thank you so much, Ange. So much wisdom shared, so many helpful hints and tips. The importance of journaling, the importance of weaving, the importance of being a friend to yourself, kindness, compassion, just so much there. It's definitely worth watching again and again on repeat. Just so many, as you say, at a deeper level, so many messages for us, for each of us to take away. So thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.